Hi teachers, welcome to today's mini workshop. I am so excited as usual to be here with you all, and I generally hope that you all had an amazing holiday. So I want to do a quick overview of what we're going to be sharing, or what I'm going to be sharing in today's mini workshop. I'm going to be providing to you some ideas for some winter lessons that you can use for your ELLs when you return to school next week. You might do or might plan the end of the week like I am, and you may be stuck on some ideas. So I'm going to give you 3 ideas that you can use when you are planning your lessons for the upcoming winter. So once again, I hope everybody's had a great holiday. I am Millie, and I am here to share with you these strategies. I know it's that time of year and you all may be planning your second semester and you have no idea what to teach. I know for me, this can be very frustrating and it can cause a mental block. And sometimes you can really beat yourself up over this. Now, at the beginning of the second semester, I take time to plan for the new year. Last year, when I was planning for the new semester, I straight up got stuck. I didn't know what to do, where to go. I got stuck. I call it what I had a mental planning block, and I just couldn't come up with any engaging activities for my ELLs. I thought and just thought, and finally I decided maybe I just need to take a step away from the process and decided to take a nice walk, get out, shop, go to Michael's, do whatever I love doing. And so I knew I needed that time, and I also needed that space to come up with some ideas to plan lessons for my ELLs. Now, after I had that space, I felt energized again. I also had some ideas for some very engaging lessons for my students. I sat down with my planner, some colorful pens, my favorite highlighters, and I started brainstorming my lessons for the upcoming winter. The first thing that I decided to do, which was really popular with a lot of teachers, and I would encourage you to do this as well, is to have your students set goals for the new year. Now, I know you were like, oh, I always do that. But I wanted to put my own special spin on it, and I suggest you do the same. What I did was I had the students set goals, and then I turned it into a speaking and a writing activities for my ELLs. The next activity that I decided to do with them was I wanted to introduce my students to the very sensitive topic of slavery in the United States. And I wanted to do this because we had an upcoming novel where they're going to be introduced to this topic. So one of the things that I decided to do was I created a close reading about Black History Month in the United States. Now, for me, it was really important that I did this because I wanted my students to have the background knowledge that they needed to be successful in this topic. I also realized that I needed one more good activity for the year. So, of course, I decided to do a novel study to round out my ideas for the winter. Now, I want to give you some strategies and some tips of some winter lessons that you can use with your ELLs. Now, during the first week back at school after winter break, it is the perfect time to do some goal setting with your students. This is the time where we are starting to prepare for language assessments. We are starting to prepare for end of the year assessments. And so it is a really great opportunity to do this. But you can then take that goal setting activity and then transform it into a writing activity for your ELLs and a speaking activities. So for example, you can have your students write an essay about their goals and use the writing rubric that I provided with you a couple of weeks ago, or provided to you a couple of weeks ago, and have the students grade themselves on their writing. Then you can have the students share their goals, and this is only if they feel comfortable. It is a very intimate process. So if the students say, you know what, I don't feel comfortable, try to find different ways to encourage them to share one of their goals. You can then have them share their goals with a partner or even get on an app like Flipgrid or VoiceThread and then have them share their goals there. Once again, to encourage that growth, take a speaking rubric and have the students then compare how they did on these apps or with the speaking assignment with the speaking rubric. The next thing that you can do is you can design a close reading for your students about winter topics such as snow or winter holidays, or even events such as Black History Month or Valentine's Day that's coming up in the winter. You can then take this close reading and then focus on the 4 language domains for your students. And just a friendly reminder, the 4 language domains are reading, listening, speaking, and writing. I know I have a close reading where I do with my students where I focus on all 4 of the language domains, and you can do the same thing as well. Now, if you're stuck and you're saying, okay, I don't know how to design a close reading assignment, then what you can do is you can simply use a nonfiction article about winter topics as well. And I'll make sure to link a close reading planning sheet that I use. I got it from Teachers Pay Teacher. It's a great resource, so I'll make sure to provide that for you all as well. But you can use that to plan your lessons. So it's a great way to do this for your students. You can just find a nonfiction article, use that close reading planning sheet for your students, and then you are good to go. And the third idea that you can use for a winter lesson is do a small novel study with your students. The novel study can be a short story or it can be like a little mini novel for your students. You can then find books that are centered around winter topics. So when you're doing your novel study, think of a project that you can do at the end. Usually this can last about 4 to 6 weeks. Now, I want you to know that if you decide to do a winter novel study, then just a couple ideas if you have newcomers or sci students is that use a graphic novel instead of a novel with them, or use a graphic novel in conjunction with the novel. So here are your next steps. This is what I need you to do for your next steps. I want you to plan 3 winter lessons for your ELLs, and I want to hear about them. Plan 3 winter lessons. Just a quick recap. The first thing that you can do with your students is do a goal-setting activity where you can then go back with that goal-setting activity, turn it into a reading activity, turn it into a listening activity. You can turn it into a speaking and writing activity, that goal-setting. The second thing that you can do is do a close reading with your students on winter topics, winter events. Remember, you can do this with a nonfiction article, and I'm going to link as well a close reading planning guide that is free that you can use that will help you out. I use it all the time when I'm planning my close readings. I love it. And the third idea for some winter lesson ideas for your ELLs is that you can do a mini novel study. It doesn't have to be a full-blown novel study, but you can find short stories, you can find graphic novels that about winter topics that you can do with your ELLs. And just remember, if you do have newcomers, you do have sci students, they can do this, okay? And I want to hear about all of your winter topics, your winter ideas. So make sure you send me an email at millie@myadventuresinESL.com. I also want to know, what are some of your favorite winter activities to do with your ELLs? I know I have my favorites, but I would love to hear about your favorites. I also want to thank you for taking the time to be here with me. If you have not subscribed to my podcast, it's Adventures in ESL. Go ahead and subscribe to it so you can get regular updates when it's released. Also, next week, I'm going to be here as well, and I'm going to be sharing with you some ideas of how you can get your ELLs involved in the arts. So once again, I'm your host, Millie. I am excited to be here with you, and I will see you all next week. Bye.